Hello, spicy people of the internet. Spice8Rack here, aka the cursed mirror who shows you what could have been, and welcome back to the channel. Last month, I completed my frankly grueling nitpick of all of the D&D cards in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and if you haven't watched either of those videos yet, then I don't really know why you're watching this video. Go watch the other two, you bloody lummox. In those videos, we had a good laugh, we had a good cry, and I think we all learnt something along the way. And I include myself in that because, frankly, I made some embarrassing errors in my analysis of these children's playing cards. So, come with me now on a journey through time and space as I go through all of the mistakes that I made that you pointed out in my comment section. Thanks for doing that. It made me feel really bad about myself, but it also made the videos do particularly well, so continue to tell me that I'm a piece of shit, please. Let's blast into the first video for a couple of things that I missed or just got completely wrong. To start with, one of my patrons on my Spice8Rack Patreon Discord server, you can join it at plug, points out that, and this is Ellie, hashtag is Mary Lesbo, lovely. In the spirit of nitpicking for the corrections video, in the first video your intro said, aka using my bonus action to say all of this when talking is a free action during initiative. And I would like to say that I would 100% agree with this point. However, in my original video, I did speak for a solid hour and a half, which I think at bare minimum goes over free action status and into bonus action, if not full action. Bearing in mind that each round of combat is, what, 10 seconds, 6 seconds, something like that? I just spent, what, 100 rounds of combat talking? So I think I need to at least use a bonus action to do that. Michael Turner points out that in D&D you can defeat a flump by simply flipping it upside down, and for the card flump, if you switch its power and toughness through many sort of inside out or upside down kind of effects, you also kill the flump, which is, I think, I don't even know if the game's designers necessarily thought of that, but that was a beautiful little bit of an analysis there. Thank you very much, Michael. Harper Burns is our next commenter who points out that in regards to the Grandmaster of Flowers, the fact that he's drawn with 7 canaries in his art is very, very important because there are many monks who have the title of Grandmaster of Flowers, but only Bahamut actually is referenced to be consistently surrounded by 7 canaries, which is a detail that I absolutely did not know about, which very much confirms that this is Bahamut in mortal form. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to staple on all of the many criticisms that people levied against myself and Lily Simpson, who helped out in those 2 videos, in our pronunciations of Bahamut. I didn't know how you were supposed to say the dragon, okay? That's the first time I've ever heard his name. Lay off me, please. It's not my fault. Our next couple of comments are about the card Gelatinous Cube. In my video, my only critique of the card was the fact that its power and toughness was 4 and 3, which I said wasn't particularly cube-like. I wanted it to be a 4 and a 4. However, as João Garcia, and I really hope I'm getting your first name right, points out, if you read the power and toughness of Gelatinous Cube as 4 to the power of 3, then you have a very, very much cube-like power and toughness, i.e. 4 cubed. My only additional critique of this critique, which I now almost 100% agree with, is that I would then prefer Gelatinous Cube to have a power of 3 and a toughness of 4, because then you have 4 to the power of 3. The other critique that goes around Gelatinous Cube and my analysis of it was something that I missed, and that's that Gelatinous Cubes in D&D are not big neon green things, they are translucent and clear cubes that are supposed to surprise adventurers as they run down dungeon hallways in the dark and slam into them. Obviously, this is a massive visual inconsistency between Gelatinous Cubes and the card Gelatinous Cube that I absolutely missed during my original analysis. ASE of Spades points out that legendary means something different in D&D than in Magic. In my video, I critiqued a lot of the cards in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms that depicted legendary items that appeared in the Dungeon Master's Guide for losing the legendary subtype in translation. However, as ASE of Spades points out, legendary in D&D just means that an item can either be unique or just exceptionally rare, which is not something that is shared in Magic the Gathering. If you have a legendary item or a land, for example, in Magic the Gathering, there is only one version of that thing throughout the entire multiverse. However, in D&D, something like the Sphere of Annihilation is a legendary item, but there doesn't only ever exist one across all planes of being. It's just an extremely rare thing, and this was not a distinction that I was aware of before I made my video. Our next comment is about True Polymorph, which I critiqued in the first video by saying that I liked the card. However, True Polymorph as it exists in D&D does not last permanently, whereas the card True Polymorph absolutely is a permanent effect. Lots of people, including Emblem, pointed out that True Polymorph can be a permanent effect if the caster maintains concentration for a full hour for the duration of the spell. And this is very much a self-crit of I did actually know this information beforehand. I just completely mangled my wording. What I was supposed to say when I was critiquing this card is that True Polymorph doesn't always end up being a permanent effect. Although in defense of all the commenters who called me out on this, I didn't have any kind of backup of, and the way for you to represent both the temporary nature or the permanent nature of True Polymorph would be through this mechanic. I didn't have anything like that sort of backed up to say in the video, so this was a very legitimate criticism. Our next comment says, "Holy shit, I've never seen a man this skinny since the Great Famine." Now, whilst this video is a lot of self-criticism, I want to take a little moment within this to shoot some criticism back at you, the audience. Don't leave comments like this. This is an incredibly uncomfortable thing for me to read. It makes me feel really bad about myself, and I do read all of my comments, so stop leaving stuff like this. And if you do care so much about my health or the weight of my body, then why don't you send me $5 a month on Patreon so that I can buy all the delicious sandwiches that you want me so obviously to eat, you fucking pricks. The Arcane Phoenix points out that the level 2 on the Wizard class card is Divination. And now to explain what the Arcane Phoenix means by this, in my critique of the Wizard class card in my video, I say that I don't really know what the level 2 ability is supposed to represent. And I say it's just a drawing card seems like a wizardy thing to do. However, the Arcane Phoenix, quite expertly in my opinion, points out that at a certain point in your wizard character's leveling up, you get to pick which school of magic you want to study under. You can become a necromancer, you can study transmutation, or you can study divination. Now, divination being a school in D&D that a wizard can choose to study, but divination is also a Magic the Gathering card that costs 2 and a blue at sorcery speed that lets you draw 2 cards. All 3 of those things are contained within the level 2 ability of the Wizard class card. This was a fantastic spot. Quite a few people in the comment section pointed this out, but I thank you so much for alerting me to this delightful bit of analysis, because I think that is a gorgeous little allegory right there. And finally, before we move on to video 2, Jelly Pope says, "Psst, spoiler alerts for some of the adventure bosses would be nice." And this is completely on me. I do not know why, but I didn't think to put spoiler warnings up for the discussions of some of the legendary creatures as they exist in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. I got Lily to come onto the channel to talk about their extended lore and what adventures they appear in, and at least in the very first video, there were a couple of creatures that are major and surprise villains or heroes of certain adventures, and I didn't think at any point in my editing process to actually put a spoiler warning up. I have since rectified that to a certain degree by putting it in the little chapter section on the time code of the video, but I really want to apologize for anyone who watched this and then had a adventure potentially ruined or at least spoiled for them to a certain degree by my video. That is probably the biggest mistake that I've made throughout all of them, and I'm very sorry about that. Moving on to video 2, and Azazin Note points out that my critique of Wild Shape is very much incorrect. In my video, I say that Wild Shape as a spell can only let you as a druid transform into a creature of challenge rating, I believe I said 1 or below. This is objectively incorrect for 2 reasons. As Azazin points out, Wild Shape is first an ability, not a spell. Those two are very, very different things in D&D. But also, as you level up as a druid, and particularly if you become a Circle of the Moon druid, you can transform into much higher challenge rating animals, capping off at challenge rating 6 at level 18, which very much does include things like elephants, which I thought was completely out of place. So that's just a full bundle of mistakes right there. A username that I'm going to have fun pronouncing, Finesmers, points out that I did not mention how the most iconic wizard spell is unavailable to all legendary wizards from both Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms commander decks. What this user is saying is the most iconic spell is, of course, the Wish spell, which cannot be cast in, for example, a commander deck where any wizard from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is being used as a commander. There are no red-aligned wizards throughout the whole of the set or the commander set that can use the Wish spell, which would be a little bit like if none of the druids in the set or the commander decks could use Wild Shape in their lists. Yeah, this seems like a big oversight in my opinion. The next couple of comments are about my section where I talk about Ochre Jelly. The first is a critique of the fact that I say, very incorrectly, that no other ooze in all of Magic the Gathering's history has any kind of splitting effect. Which is, I don't know exactly why I said this, because I know both of the cards that Poodriti919, I'm really sorry, I'm probably getting that wrong. I know both of the cards that this user talks about. Mimeotic Slime was one of my favorite cards to play with when I was first starting to learn the game, where I had a bunch of M11, M12, M13 cards just knocking around. And of course you have Splitting Ooze, which just, it splits. And I don't know how I forgot that Splitting Ooze splits. That was foolish. And second off, there's a little bit towards the end of my critique of the card where I say how funny it is to forget that lightning damage can make oozes split. And I make the joke about how I'm going to try and kill this ooze with Thunderclap, and then my DM says, great, there are now 6 of them. Thunderclap does thunder damage, not lightning damage. And you know what? No. I'm gonna critique WotC for this one. Why are thunder damage and lightning damage 2 separate things? What is the meaningful, tangible difference between thunder damage and lightning damage? I don't care if someone has a response to that. I don't care if someone knows. It's silly and it should be retconned. I'm right, and WotC as a collective are wrong. Rat says, Joseph Stalin right now, crying face. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. And finally, John B says, I've listened to Goblin Time so many times today that I need it on SoundCloud, please. The entire rant has huge Mark Bonanno energy. And fun fact, I was actually on stage with Auntie Donna at the Edinburgh Fringe 2016 and broke my jaw falling over and pretending to die dressed as the King of Australia. But that's completely unrelated. Anyway, John, you've got your wish. And to round out this episode, now available on SoundCloud, it's Goblin Time. Credits!
Goblin time, eh, hey. Goblin time, eh, hey. Goblin time, eh, hey. Goblin time! Goblin time! Hey, hey!
Goblin time! Goblin time! Goblin time! Goblin time!
Goblin time!
Goblin!
Goblin time! Goblin time!
Goblin!
Goblin time! Goblin time!
Goblin!
Goblin time! Goblin time!
Goblin!
Goblin time! Goblin time! Hey, hey! Goblin time! Goblin time! Hey, hey! Goblin time! Goblin time! Hey, hey! Goblin time! Goblin time! Hey, hey!
A massive thank you to all of the people who support me on Patreon who make these videos possible, and an extra special thank you to all of my $10 patrons, who include 1234 I Declare a Class War, A Fool of Five Colours, A Gay American Couple, A Waste of a Perfectly Good Skeleton, Akumi the Reaper, Adam Gable, AJ Ingram, Alex Berman, Alex Flynn, Alice Perales, an alt-right sleeper agent who gives money to communist Booker Idaka and then in parentheses probably Tybalt's Persona, an Umbreon Pastry, or a Brexis Siberia, Basu Gasu Baku Hatsu Baku Matsu, Benjamin Easter, Biscuit Blade, Blake Evers, Bradley Rose, Brian Dunn, Kalululu, Charles Cohen, Charles McElrath, Christa Voss, Serso Celesa, Cloud Chaser Kestrel, Cognitive Glitch, Dark Kijin, Darth Pink Hippo, Deadpan Goth, Duncan, Dystopico, Exidian, Alfonsi, Erica Valentine, Ethan Abraham, Everybody Loves Robots, Faxel, Felix Morton, Fiona Perry, Fiona, Fofa, Foxy Dean, Future Beagle, Great Days, Hans Matthewson, Have You Considered Human Rights Maybe, Hypercube MTG. I am saying this only because our global economic system does not intrinsically support artistic expression. I want Emrakul to dominate me. In response, I bolt myself. In response, table flip. Jason Braska are a T for T couple. Jackson West, Jake Colburn, Jennifer Klein, Jessica Settle, Johnny Rifle, Joshua M. Stephan, Julius Home, Just Mild Lilac, just passed his uni classes this year with all A's and feels badass. Talia Whithart, Caitlin Evers, Kate B, Koo Zombie, Kurdape Apologizer, Kyle Denley, Liliana, Lily of the North Star, literally a ghost that pushes over candles, Linnea, Madame Monroe, Magic Arcanum, Mark Douglas, Matthew Marks, Matthew Short, Max Cooper, Mike Mavromatis, Mirrorhead, Mr. Skolaton, and Ben, Okami, Omar Altibaihi, Oops All Shiny, Pappy Markov Was a Mistake, Peter Carter, Phoenix Swans, Romeo Joe, Singularity But the First Eyes Are One, Samuel Kona, Senator Pie, Several Goblins in a Trench Coat, Siegfried Pinzer, Sky Johnson, Stephen Christopher, a train that's going by my window. That's not a patron, that's just observational comedy. It's not even comedy, it's just observation. Steve Gruhl, Swan Hunter, Tally Sin, Tana Matone, Taylor Street, Ted Cruz, The Ghost of Karl Marx in 4D, The Jellybean Warlock, The One and Statistically Only Wilder New Year, Thelon, The Reaper of You, Totally a Spy, Travis K, Trey Ernst, Trey Parker, Wesley, that dead communist, Why is there no milk on Bant? Because they're Rakdos intolerant, Xenon, Zachary Baldwin, and Xanoron. And a big thank you to all my beautiful, lovely patrons. A big thank you to you for watching to the end of the credits. Please go check out my Bandcamp to go and download your copy of Goblin Time. And yeah, I'll see you very, very shortly for the second video of the month, baby. Let's go!